Hey guys, welcome to Matt's Mechanics, and today we're going to be doing a tire rotation on my 2025 Polaris RZR XP 4. Before we get into that though, I want to break down what type of tire rotation I'm doing, what type of tire rotations are out there, and what to look out for while you're doing a tire rotation. So, at a lot of shops for cars, not for side-by-sides, you'll find that they just take your front tires and in a straight line fashion, move them to the rear, and take your rear tires, move them to the front. Now at a four-wheel drive shop or a better shop, you might find that they do an X with them, right? They take your front left tire and they move it to the right rear. You take your front right, move it to the left rear. Like I said, just to kind of do an X pattern there with your tires. Now there are some other types of tire rotations you might want to consider. For example, if you have a full-size spare, like I do here, you might want to include it into the rotation if you want to get better use out of it, because tires do go bad. You might want to just play a little bit musical chairs there in the back. Take that spare, move it to the rear right, and take your rear right, move it to the rear left, and make your rear left the new spare tire, so that way you're actually getting use out of your spare tire, and you'll have to replace all 5 tires when you do go to replace your tires, but you'll get more use out of them, right? More life. And then in that situation, you just kind of do another X there after you have that little musical chair situation out. There are some situations where you might have your front tires wearing in an uneven way, but you have your rear tires wearing pretty evenly. And in that case, you'd rotate your front tires with each other, front left to front right to front left. And then you just do a straight line rotation with them after that. So you bring your rear tires to the front, and then after your tires are switched on the front, you take them to the rear. So kind of like where your front tires do an X, but your rear tires aren't, if that makes sense. So just kind of think about, or look at your tires, think about what would be best for your vehicle. My most practical advice is to do it consistently and keep it consistent. So for me, I like to do it whenever I get an oil change done. For this vehicle, it's every 25 hours. So every 25 hours, I do an X pattern in this vehicle, and that way I'm ensuring that all tires are wearing pretty evenly and I'm getting more use out of it. I'd also recommend the same for any automotive. Whenever you go in for an oil change, you get a lot more use out of your tires when you do a tire rotation with it. Now, what to look out for when you're doing the tire rotation. Check all 4 tires for uneven wear. So if you're having suspension issues like a collapsed strut, or you have a joint going out, a bushing going out, bearings, that kind of stuff, before you can hear or feel it really, your tire will show signs of it. And so if you're keeping consistent with your tire rotations, you'll make a good note of it. Nothing will, hopefully nothing will get back to you, and you won't be sitting there doing a ka-chow on the road, if you know what I mean. So yeah, look for uneven wear. If you're seeing degradation on one side or the other, it could be a sign of any of that. And it also shows when your tires are over or underinflated. So if your tires are underinflated, you'll notice that the tread closer to the sidewalls will be a lot more worn than the one in the center. And then if your tires are overinflated, the tread in the center will be a lot more worn out than the ones on the side. So keep an eye out for that too, because that will be an instant sign if your tires are over or underinflated, or if you're having any suspension issues. But you should always keep an eye on your tire pressure anyway. But just a good rule of thumb to look out for. Other than that, let's get into it. And since we're doing an X, I'm gonna have to pull off all 4 tires at the same time. So I'm going to jack up the vehicle appropriately and remove all 4 wheels. So a good rule of thumb when jacking up any vehicle is jack it up on the solid surface. A lot of vehicles will have lift points. On a car, it'll be close to the pinch weld. Sometimes they'll even have a little arrow pointing down to it. It's usually right here behind the front left tire, right where the pinch weld starts, there'll be like a little arrow pointing down to a place where you can lift a vehicle. And they'll have one in the rear too in that situation. Trucks, you want to lift them from their frame, that's the most solid part. On these side-by-sides, you want to lift them by the roll cage, or you can honestly do it by the lower control arm if you can get it up high enough. Now you can do this with like just a normal car lift, or you can do it this way. And when you do it this way, you don't need to go crazy. Just make it so the tires are just right off the ground and you can roll freely. That's all. Look at the travel on that, huh? All right, now we have the vehicle fully in the air. All wheels can spin. Well, those ones are transmission locked, but everything's free floating. Now I will admit, doing this on a vehicle with such large suspension travel is pretty hard, at least without a car lift. Just play it smart. You do need at least 2 jacks to do it. You might be able to squeeze by with 1 if you're really risky, but paid a lot for the machine and I don't want to mess it up just by doing a tire rotation. So just go through, double check that everything's on something solid. And I did end up putting all 4 of my jacks underneath the control arms, and that's really what's holding up the vehicle. The 2 jack stands are really just auxiliary support in case anything goes wrong. And I do have some more jack stands around the frame in there. It's so tall right now that none of my jack stands are reaching, but they're like 1 inch off. Just hopefully they do catch it if it does. It's not really the way jack stands work, I'll admit. Because that just 1 inch force, I mean, a lot can happen there, especially if it's sliding. I've seen a lot of vehicles just kind of like scissor right off the jack stand. So, you know, again, always just play it safe when doing this. Other than that, yeah, let's exit. And while we have the vehicle at this stage, all the tires are off. This is where you can check some stuff that you can't normally check with the tires on. Ball joints, rust, brake pad life, rotors. To go through on all 4 of those, on all 4 sides and make sure they're all good. Use a flashlight, check for any unusuals. Again, anything that you catch prematurely will save you money in the long run. Now that all tires have been rotated in the next pattern, everything is inspected, tire tread, brakes, all suspension work, I can go ahead and put the tires back on. Now remember when doing tire rotations to check your vehicle manufacturers for the tire rotation torque, or the tire torque, sorry. In this case, it's going to be 120 foot-pounds of torque. And then another thing, always make sure you install your lug nuts in a star pattern. So, you know, if it's 5 lug nuts, do a little star with it. You're just alternating bolts from side to side, so that way it's getting a nice even fit when you put it on. And if you're wondering why I didn't include my spare tire in tire rotation, it's because the tire and the rim are both not really compatible with it. It'd work in an emergency, but They're just some cheap shit off of Amazon, really only for an emergency. So now that I have everything tightened down, I haven't have it torqued yet. I'm gonna lower the vehicle down, take the jack stands out, and then go around and torque down the wheel studs, and then we'll be done. Now, it's not in the Polaris manual, but a good rule of thumb with both cars and anything that has tires and the tire torque is drive in these things 15 to 20 miles from the car, a couple hundred miles, then come back in and re-torque it down. They can loosen up a little bit over time. Other than that, that's it. We did a tire rotation and we're all good to go. Have a great day, guys. The only other thing to consider is these vehicles do have a different tire pressure for the front and the back. The front is supposed to be at 10 PSI, the rear is supposed to be at 20 PSI. And since we just swapped our front and rears, now your fronts are at 20 and your rears are at 10. So you're gonna wanna take some air out of the fronts and put some air in your backs.